unfortunately, you have the 5 walks. How do you just kind of assess when there are positives? It seems like there's a step forward, but also that the pitch count gets up, and of course, just the lack of command in some situations there.
今日は試合で、6の三振とか、ホールもちょっと多かったんですけど、あと無理にその1回とか、ちょっとピッチカウントも多かってしまったことがあるんですけど、今日振り返って
一番の反省はまず球数が多かったので、イニング投げれなかったことで、ただ初回、三振取って、ランナー得点圏にされながらも初回2回粘れたところは良かったですし、三振も、取れたところは良かったのかなと思います。
Yeah, I mean, pitch count definitely got high today, but in the first inning, I was able to run through the innings. I was able to attack the zone with the stuff, so yeah, it's okay.
Seeing the swing and miss, I mean, how much is that a step forward for you with how you feel mechanically?
空振りも結構多く取れてたと思うんですけれども、それについてはまず素敵な何か良かった。
三振に関しては基本的に多分フォークが今日良かったので、そうだと思うんですけど。
So I think my forkball was much better today, so I think I was able to get strikes.
What do you think made the forkball better for you today? Was it command of it, the movement of it? What was better about it?
フォークボールについては何が良かったのか、コントロールが良かったのか、それとも動きが良かったのか。
ベース板の上を行く球が多かったですし、落差も今日はあったと思うので、そこは良かったです。
Yeah, I think I was able to, go on the plate and also, had a good depth.
If kind of finding a way, even when you weren't feeling the best, was the first step for you this season, what is the next step?
今感じていて、いいステップという結果かなと思うんですけども、次のステップなので、どのように考えてますか？
そうですね、3登板、4回、5回、4回とイニングがそこまでかけてないので、やっぱなるべく中継ぎに負担かけないように、少ない失点で長いイニングを投げることが、結果としてはすごく目標です。
So I threw 3 games right now, and innings kind of like 4, 5 or something like that. So it's not that many. So my goal is to kind of, go to every game.
Do you feel like you've made progress overall this season in terms of just trying to take the step forward that you envisioned sort of taking?
今そのシーズンとしてはそのいい方向に進んでいるかという感じはありますね。グローブですし。
良くなっているところとまだまだ改善していかなきゃいけないところは、それぞれあると思うので、ただ長期的に見てじゃあこの球数どうやって減らしていくとか、フォアボール減らしていくときに、根本的な原因は多分要因というかそこは一緒だと思うので、そこは引き続きピッチング方もしっかり、修正して、ゾーンに強いまっすぐを投げることが必要になってくるのかなと思います。
Yeah, I think there are a lot of positives and also a lot of things that I need to work on coming up. So basically, what I'm going to be working on is, talk to them with those strikes and keep moving.
Roki, with the mental side of things being as important as the physical side of things, how do you feel you've grown in that aspect in your second season with the Dodgers?
今年ドジャースで2年目を迎えるんですけど、どのような感じですか？
そうですね、去年よりも1年やってる分、慣れもありますし、去年よりは落ち着いて、ダメな時もしっかり必要なところだけピックアップして、次に向けて修正っていう形だとは含めてるのかなと思います。
Yeah, obviously this is my second year, so I feel like I kind of get used to it. And then even if tough situation, I'll be, I'm kind of set down and then do my stuff. So yeah, I think progressing really well.
Dave, for Rami's Sasaki today, when you just look at his outing, do you kind of focus on the positives of the 6 strikeouts and seeing his swing and miss and how the stuff is playing, or are the walks still proving to be a big challenge and kind of a tough spot for him at the moment?
I think, I think it's a fair question. I think the thing that stands out is he limited damage. Once he exited the game, we are still in a good position to win the game. That was important. He didn't let it kind of spin out of control. And then looking at the lack of efficiency, I think that's something that, with the stuff that he had today, the 6 strikeouts and then the swing and miss and all that stuff, that sets up for going deeper in the game. And so I think that's something that I talked to him about and challenging him to, when you take the baseball, we're trying to go 5 innings or more. And so I think that's kind of the next progression for him to be consistently able to do that. But I do feel that the growth part of it is to, hang in there, make pitches when he needs to. That's important. And, he spread the walks out, I guess as well as you could to kind of limit damage. And that's something I was proud of in that sense.
And being in the zone more, is that more of an intent thing or is that a command thing?
I think it's a little combo. I think there's a little bit, and I think he, honestly, is some of the misses were just off, certainly with the fastball. So I think that maybe trying to be a little bit too fine. Obviously, no pitchers are trying to walk guys. But I think there might be a little bit of the intent about being a little too fine. That's kind of what I see, where I think before there were some bad misses and maybe a little too running from the strike zone, where I don't see that now.
When you see him in the same inning go from like sharp to then suddenly kind of wild for a couple batters, like what do you think is happening with them?
That's a good question. I don't know that answer. But what it does say is that when it gets really hot, gets stressful, then he finds a way to make pitches. So, how do you get ahead of that and not let an inning get built? That's what the great ones do. And I think that if you look back at today and even a lot of his outings, there's some bad walks in there. Guys that you have to go after and force them to put the ball in play. And, he's been victim to that. So once we can kind of get past that, then I think you'll see a lot more efficiency out of Roki.
When you're talking about the intent piece, is there anything that you can pull from his experience coming out of the pen when kind of that is more of the mindset that relievers are coming into, just going at guys?
Yeah, I think certainly. I think, that's kind of the mindset of a reliever because you're going to go shorter. You're not going to throw as many pitches, so you can kind of empty the tank. And, with starters, they train for more pitches, more innings, and you have to, have in your head to still have that same mindset and trust that your work can, sustain 90 to 100 pitches with the same mindset and effort. And so that's something that, we got to get to that point.
Just some of the sloppiness on kind of all phases today, frustrating, felt like maybe gave some opportunities away to get back in the game after that.
I think so. That's, we had, I think, 10 walks. One was trying to, put Seager on base intentionally, but, 9 walks is a lot of walks. That's a lot of free bases. And then, Edgardo's got to make that play on the PFP, and we could have stayed in that game, and it could have been different. But I think, the 9 walks, 10 walks, whatever stands out, and, the PFP. But DeGrom was really good, and, it's hard to muster up a bunch of runs against that guy.
Call said there wasn't a double steal call on that play with him and Otani. It was just them reading that in real time.
Yeah, I think, if we had to do it over again, he's got to be at second base. You've got arguably your hottest hitter, your hottest hitter at the plate with 2 outs, and, you just can't get caught up in a run down there. You can't do it.
Had it been a safe situation, would you guys have been available?
I don't know yet. I don't know. I'm going to keep that one to myself.
Coach, talk about the continuous defensive play for Freeman on first base. He continues to make these really good plays.
He is. So that's something that, Freddie's always trying to get better. And, being hurt the last year and a half, he's really made a concerted effort to work on his lateral, you know, agility and all that stuff, and he's playing the heck out of first base right now. He's doing a great job, and that's really a credit to him and his work.
What is the swing and miss from Tucker? So tell you where his swing's at right now.
Talked to Robert and said there's some things that he's seeing a little bit. He's getting out of his kind of zone, I see, and he's not a guy that typically chases down below, but he's chasing a lot more down below for me. This is not really a good example as far as the guy we faced today, but I think we've seen it enough as far as, you know, the last week or whatever. There's been a lot more kind of chase down below is what I see. I see him as a high ball hitter, and so I guess a little bit just kind of getting him back into his hitting zone, and then you know, cleaning up a couple of mechanical things that Robert sees, and they've had conversations.
Do you have comfortable like maybe trying to do too much early on in this time here to look at what do you sort of think fuels that sort of chase?
I think there's a little bit to that, you know, and that's kind of what I see, and typically when guys chase, they're trying to do a little bit too much.
So do you think some of that comes, especially in like a spot like today, where he's, you know, we talk about him needing to protect Shohei and then walk him intentionally in front of him? Like, does that kind of lead into that in that kind of spot too?
I think maybe a little bit, but you know, they did that. I think I forgot what team did that. And he got a base hit, you know, Toronto. You know, he's going to get his opportunities, and even, you know, outside of situations like that, he's done some a little bit more expanding than I think typical.
What did you see the matchup between Shohei and Jacob DeGrom?
I liked the first at bat, and then I think he took a walk. Yeah, I mean, Jacob, when he's right, he's one of the best in baseball. So, yeah, I thought Shohei took a couple good at bats today.
As you guys keep calibrating to the ABS stuff, is that a spot with Kim that's...
Yeah, that was not a good spot to challenge right there. All right, thanks, guys.
Dave, yesterday we got to see Emmett Sheehan just how he's continued to progress, getting back on track. With Roki Sasaki today, how would you like to see him just kind of his third outing in the regular season, kind of find some rhythm and how his steps?
I think Roki's in that same Emmett bucket as far as trending in the right direction and, you know, cleaning up some things with the delivery, and then, you know, translating that to pitch execution. So, you know, hopefully we can, you know, he can keep building off that, and I feel good with the work that he's put in before this start, and go from there.
When you look at his last outing, I mean, yes, there was the 2 home runs, but he was able to finish and honestly start on a higher note. Are you just looking now more for the consistency of his stuff throughout an outing?
Yeah, I think that, you know, with any starting pitcher, obviously, you know, the mindset has got to be in a good spot, where I think he's in as good a spot as he has been with us. And then, you know, the physical, the mechanical part, that's got to be in line. And then I think then it just, for me, the execution has been a lot better the last couple outings. The misses have been near misses versus egregious misses. So it's just been more consistent. And I think that if he can continue to do that, you know, this is an aggressive team. Clearly they're aggressive, and if he can, you know, pitch off that split, present it as a strike, shorten it when he needs to, you know, mix in the fastball, things like that, you know, he should have a good day.
What's your plan with that windy edge? You just kind of ride this out?
Yeah, it's for me right now with Edwin, it's just, you know, just talking to the pitching guys and looking at the velocity and obviously some things that he's dealt with in the past. We're just trying to, it's a day-to-day thing, I think is a short answer. So I'm going to see how he feels and catch play and talk to the trainers and the pitching guys and kind of see where we go and make a decision from there.
There's no physical problem?
I am confident right now, you know, because everything I hear that he feels fine. So I think for me, it's you know, you hear it, you want to completely trust it, but then you're also looking at, you know, the gun and making sure. So we're kind of treading lightly and giving him the benefit of the doubt, but still watching.
Has the velocity been like a concern? I know, like you mentioned the other night, like it's usually down for him at the start of the season. Has there been anything kind of specific about these couple outings that just hasn't looked kind of completely right to you?
Not as far as delivery. So I think for me, we're sort of trying to like dig in a little bit. But I think that, 2 miles an hour, whatever it is, that's pretty significant. So I think that's why I think that we just kind of flagged it and then, wanted to have him down and kind of see where we get. Because a couple of days ago, there was a lot of throws in there too. And so just trying to also, like we've done many times, just play the long view with our guys.
Where would you say your concern level is at?
I would say it's low right now, below moderate, so it's low. And he takes very good care of himself. So obviously he's a high-profile player, very important to our club. That's probably why we're being, why I had him down yesterday. And today I'm still kind of yellow lighting him and kind of seeing once I hear back from the pitching coaches.
Dave, we heard Snell talk about last year how, right, when he came in, he kind of, right, he wanted to make a good first impression and kind of push through that. Obviously, Diaz is kind of a similar situation. Have you had that conversation at all yet?
You know what? That's a very fair comp, and I think that I haven't yet, but our pitching guys have. Players want to play, they want to perform, and sometimes, they're their worst enemy. So I think that's another reason why we're kind of just, again, treading lightly is the word I'm using, because you got to respect that they want to be out there, but then, we all kind of, end up with a short straw, if the player goes down. And that's kind of what happened with Blake, and all the right intentions, but it just, at that point, he would do it over again. So Eddie's trying to obviously make an impression, wants to be a part of things. So we're trying to kind of take that, with a grain of salt a little bit.
The Mets being next probably doesn't help that.
Yeah. But I think for us, we're still going to do what we feel is best for him and the organization. So this is a day-to-day thing, it really is. So it's not an IL thing we're talking about. It's more day-to-day.
Do you think it's like a mechanical issue right now, or are you still kind of?
No, I don't think it's mechanical. No.
Have you talked to him about like why in previous years he's been a slow starter?
You know what? To be quite honest, I didn't realize that until yesterday or 2 days ago. I didn't track him, as he is one of ours, so I didn't really appreciate that actually.
Dave, your lineup today, how much did that play into the fact that DeGrom is coming off MRI on his right knee, and anything could happen in that situation? Or are you guys anticipating him being long for this game with that right knee?
I think we are. I think anytime with him, he's very efficient. This is a game that they're trying to salvage a series. I think that the day game, I wanted to get Dalton in there. I also think that he's had some good success with Roki. I like that. And then, 6 in a row, I felt that this is a good time to, get Cole back into the game and, get him a start and take good at bats, and also kind of 5 of 6 is plenty for Teo. And that's kind of the thought behind it.
What's the tug of war you may have this year with guys like Muncy, Teo, and Freddie, guys that want to be in there every day, but obviously are 35-ish? Do you feel like you may have to have more of those tug of war type of conversations to keep them fresh for the second half of the stretch?
I think Muncy, we've had many conversations over the last few years about, when to give him spots and understanding, if you have a right-handed option on the bench, then that would make sense, to give him days against a lefty and, selected lefties. And I think that Teo, I've done that once already. This is the second time, in stretches of 6 in a row, which he totally understands. The tougher one's going to be Freddie, but it's still first base, and so right now I think he's taking good at bats. He's feeling good, so I'm just going to kind of monitor it as the year goes on. But he's wired to go 162, and we'll see. But if everything shows me that he's still strong and swinging well, and he's the best option, then we'll I'll go from there.
And Dave, Alex Vesia recorded his first save of the season last night on his 30th birthday. How great was it for you to give him that moment and just see that classic Vesia energy afterwards?
Great to see the classic Vesia energy. Happy to give him the moment. He was the right guy. I felt I liked him right there. Didn't want to extend Blake too much, and I didn't know it was his birthday, so that was great. So it worked out really well.
Dave, going back to Sasaki real quick, how much of a challenge, I guess, does maybe his stuff present in terms of the developmental process? Because we saw like in camp, right? He pitched against minor leaguers, he just blew everybody away, right? They just couldn't hit the forkball at all. I'm guessing you kind of send them down, you're worried, I'm guessing that it might be too easy down there. At the same time, you have them up here against the best hitters in the world, it's, right?
Yeah, but I don't think, Dylan, we didn't send him over there because it was easy. We sent him over there because there was less structure that you can get to. I think at that point in time, we needed him to get to 4 innings or 5 innings. So
yeah, I'm saying kind of going forward from here.
Going forward, if he's throwing his split for a strike and he is able to shorten it, which he did that day on the backfield, personally, if he would take the same stuff that he had that day on that backfield every start, I would bet that there'd be success at the major league level. If you look at the major league level, whether it's spring training or in games that he hasn't been good, there have been some crazy misses that no hitter is going to swing at. So if he's right, that forkball, that split, whatever it is tough to square up. It's tough to catch. And so that's the thing, and it's still 98, 99 miles an hour. So I think the thing is just getting him linear, making those misses the right misses, and getting those hitters on their heels. And then when he does that, he's effective versus anyone. When they sit back and wait him out, that's a different conversation.
Dave, Espinal and Freeland are newer members of your infield. How are you seeing them gel with everybody now that the season's started?
Seamlessly. Freeland, I think he had a good soul-searching off-season and realized how we needed to get better, what it would take to be a major league player on this ball club. And that's why he was an easy guy to kind of give an opportunity at the outset. Espinal, I think that he's a pro. He's an all-star. He has a great relationship with Teo, and he understands who he is, and whatever I need from him, he's willing to do, which makes it a lot easier to navigate him and manage him. They've been great. Fantastic roster construction.
Dave, are you still going with Robleski, Yamamoto, Ohtani against the Mets?
Yes, I think that's, Eric, I think we're staying, with the 6 stars, I don't think we're changing. You said Ohtani on Wednesday?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.